Hello, and this is Delia again, and I'm reading The Vampire Diaries, The Struggle, Chapter 13, and this is Part 3. Elena slipped out of the house without telling Aunt Judith where she was going. She was tired of lies, but she didn't want to face the fuss there would inevitably be if she said she was going to Stefan's, ever since Damon had come to dinner. Aunt Judith had been talking about him, throwing subtle and not too subtle hints into every conversation. And Robert was almost as bad. Elena sometimes thought he egged Aunt Judith on. She leaned on the doorbell of the boarding house. Wearily, where was Miss Flowers these days? When the door finally opened, Stefan was behind it. He was dressed for outdoors, his jacket collar turned up. "I thought we could go for a walk," he said. "No," Elena was firm. She couldn't manage a real smile for him, so she stopped trying. She said, "Let's go upstairs, Stefan, all right? There's something we need to talk about." He looked at her a moment in surprise, and something must have shown in her face, for his expression gradually steeled and darkened. He took a deep breath and nodded. Without a word, he turned and led the way to his room. The trunks and dressers and bookcases had long since been put back into order, of course, but Elena felt as if she was really noticing this for the first time. For some reason, she thought of the very first night she'd been here, when Stefan had saved her from Tyler's disgusting embrace. Her eyes ran over the objects on the dresser, the 15th century gold florins, the ivory-hilted dagger, the little iron coffer with the hinged lid. She tried to open that the first night, and he'd slammed the lid down. She turned, and Stefan was standing by the window, outlined by the rectangle of gray and dismal sky. Every day this week had been chilly and misty, and this was no exception. Stefan's expressions mirrored the weather outside. "Well," he said quietly, "what do we need to talk about?" There was one last moment of choice, and then Elena committed herself. She stretched out a hand to the small iron coffer and opened it. Inside, a length of apricot silk shone with muttered luster, her hair ribbon. It reminded her of summer days that seemed impossibly far away just now. She gathered it up and held it out to Stefan. "About this," she said. He had taken a step forward when she touched the coffer, but now he looked puzzled and surprised. "About that?" "Yes, because I knew it was there." "Stefan, I found it a long time ago, one day when you left the room for a few minutes. I don't know why I had to know what was in there, but I couldn't help it. So I found the ribbon, and then—" She stopped and braced herself. "Then I wrote about it in my diary." Stefan was looking more and more bewildered, as if this was not at all what he expected. Elena groped for the right words. "I wrote about it because I thought it was evidence that you'd cared about me all along, enough to pick it up and keep it. I never thought it could be evidence of anything else." Then suddenly she was speaking quickly. She told him about taking her diary to Bonnie's house, about how it had been stolen. Okay, so this will be part 4 coming up.